and welcome back to The Way of the Wandering Wizard. I am, as always, Robert Andrew Meredith Kennedy, although most folks call me Bob the Wizard. And I am, as always, a pure and open channel for the very finest vibrations of divine love and light, made manifest here in service to Gaia and those who travel with her. My last little video was a rather windy short from the Hurlers Stone Circle down in Cornwall. As was a little aside to my extensive memoirs of a life well lived, I thought I'd share with you a little incident that happened in that very circle. Now, clearly I'm a wizard. When a wizard's at work and walking, we have our staff. And so one day, in that circle, while doing a working, I was approached by a couple of tourists who, clearly, seeing the hat, the beard, the glasses, the staff and a kilt, must have assumed that I was officially laid on for them. A role to which I felt that I was well suited. So, are you a guide? Yes, I'm a guide here. And so I took them on a guided tour of the circle. I don't think their Japanese was quite up. Well, my Japanese certainly wasn't as good as theirs. And their English may not have been quite up to the in-depth discussions that I gave them about the complex wefts and weaves within the subatomic energy of Mother Earth and how it becomes manifest in spirals on the surface. So having looked at me blankly, as you probably are, and yes, but why are the circles there? Do you understand the principle of chi? So, Japanese, yes, of course. This is a chi center, and it's marked by these stones. But why did they put the stones there? And that got me to thinking. In our pre-culture, those that wandered at the head of the group were quite often the elderly, the old shaman of the tribe, because they'd set a pace that all could keep up with. It also helped in the fact that they had the experience, they had the knowledge, they'd walked before into new places. What ground looked safe, what ground didn't. It would also be mooted, certainly judging from the residues in some of their cups that we've found over the generations, that they were on quite a heady cocktail of the local mushrooms, many of which, as we know, affect the way our consciousness interacts with the world. So basically, we spent our early culture wandering around behind stoned wizards, old shaman, old stoned witches and wise women, as they led the way in these altered states of consciousness, those senses of space which would be good to live in, which everybody agreed, a good campsite with water, shelter, probably a cave. But also when they were walking in the wild open spaces, particularly in the UK at the time, these were wooded lands, forested lands. The landscape we walk today is radically different from our pre-culture. And in those wooded spaces, the high moorlands, the open hilltops were the only open spaces where you could see clear sky. It would be natural in those altered states, particularly as the energy vortexes, which I'd wowed my Japanese audience with, would resonate with the shaman's mind. And so the best thing to do would be to mark those spaces. This feels special, this feels different, this feels connected. And so stones were placed down. Now the problem with stoners is they have a tendency to move stones. So in time, the trick became to make a pile of stones. If there was a cairn of stones on that spot, people had stopped there, something had happened, they'd made a ceremony there, which reinforces the energy within that landscape, making an already connected space, a sacred space. And in time these would be marked with stones that were so big that no matter how many mushrooms the group had done, nobody was moving the stones, they're too heavy. And so that, folks, is why stone circles are present. It's to stop fellow shaman moving sacred spaces around the place to suit their own purpose. Joking aside, these spaces are connected points to our prehistory, reminders of a time that we lived in keeping with the land, in balance with the land. And these are important spaces for us to spend time in our modern world, in our disconnected world. Those of us who enjoy role, whose job is to make those connections again, walk these spaces in much the same way as folk these days go to websites. This is Neolithic internets at work, and they are wondrous spaces to reconnect to. So if you find yourself with a few moments of time, don't just walk into the circles, blasé with a "I'm not getting it." Take time, centre yourself in your land, and then approach those circles with grace. And you may, if you're lucky, meet a wandering wizard who may help you on your way. Go well, blessed be, and reminiscent of these high moorland spaces, I will no doubt return to grand tales of my current wizardly incarnation, wandering through the Mourne Mountains on misty days in Northern Ireland. Thank you as always for listening.